Hi, I'm Wendy Brockman on Metro Voices. On this edition, we'll be talking about one of the most precious resources on the planet. Let's start by seeing what people know about this life-giving resource. What did Fortune magazine call the oil of the 21st century?
Gold.
Natural gas.
Either natural gas or green energy.
You drink it.
Oh, champagne? Tea?
Energy drinks?
The oil of the 21st century.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Water?
Yes!
I don't know. Water.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. Do you think it's important to conserve water?
I do.
Absolutely.
Of course. Totally.
Because I'd like to have my grandchildren have clean water to drink.
I wash during off-peak hours on the weekend, and I water late at night.
Try not to run the dishwasher unless it's full. Try to do only full loads of laundry.
All of our faucets have water restriction.
Try and reuse as much water as possible, either by using extra water to water my plants or always being mindful of water restrictions.
I save water when it's running to get hot water. I always save the cold water and then use it for like watering plants, for flushing toilets, for like everything. I just always have a bucket like in my shower.
Do you keep the water on while you brush your teeth?
I don't.
Why?
It's just wasting water. I pay a water bill.
No, I turn it off.
No, never.
Why?
Because it's wasting water.
I turn them up, put the water on, I rinse my toothbrush, and I turn it off and I brush.
Okay.
And I turn it back on.
Do you think that Colorado will ever be in danger of running out of water?
We're all in danger of running out. Other places in the world have already run out.
I don't see it happening because of the, the snow in the mountains.
I do. Colorado is landlocked, so it's a possibility.
From what I hear, there's a good chance that they could, but, I don't know.
When do you think that could happen?
Hopefully no time soon. Not sure.
Probably not in my lifetime.
I think definitely within 100 years.
Scary?
Yeah.
There's the potential to run out of water in the next few decades.
Okay.
A couple decades.
A few decades. Wow.
We'll be back to learn much more about Colorado's water on this edition of Metro Voices. In Colorado and everywhere on our planet, without water, there can be no life. For decades, various entities in Colorado have competed for this precious resource, including agriculture, mining, recreation, industry, big cities, and small towns. While most Coloradans have heeded the call for conservation, future water demands continue to strain the system. By the year 2050, it's projected that the state's population will nearly double. With changing weather patterns, including possible drought years ahead, Colorado's challenge is to secure an adequate supply of water far into the future. In the eastern part of our country, a riparian water system exists, meaning whoever owns the land owns the rights to the water on that land. In Colorado, however, it's a matter of who was here first. Water rights were first claimed by the miners. Then agriculture came to the state, and then later our cities and towns were established. Ours is a system of senior and junior water rights. The first people to use the water have senior rights. The second users have junior rights. The water can only be used once the owners of the senior rights get the water they're entitled to. In a state where 80% of the water is on the western slope, but 80% of the population is in the eastern part of the state, things get even more complicated. To help put our complex water system in perspective, Colorado has a separate court system just for water issues and more water attorneys than any other state in the country. We get approximately 80% of our water from mountain snowmelt, and the remaining 20% is from groundwater. While the snowmelt is a renewable resource, the groundwater is not. It takes years, even centuries, for an aquifer to refill. While most of the metro area's water comes from snowmelt, The southern part of the metro area's water comes from groundwater. But those wells are drying up, and they will need water from other sources. There are 7 river basins in the state. The metro area's water comes from 3 river basins: the Colorado Basin, the Platte Basin, and the Arkansas Basin. Each river basin in the state has its own compact. In addition, we have obligations to other states downriver from us to deliver a portion of the water flow. Agriculture is by far the biggest user of the state's water. In 2005, agriculture used more than 86% of the state's water, with municipal use being just under 7%. Recreation and fishing used 3%. Commercial and industrial used about 2% of the water. By 2050, it's projected that agriculture will use 82% of the water, with the difference most likely going to municipal uses. Historically, fierce battles have been fought over water rights. Only recently have the various entities and interests begun working together to help solve our impending water shortfalls, with the formation of the Interbasin Compact Committee and the Statewide Water Supply Initiative. The state is in a new era of cooperation and is working to maintain adequate water supplies for its residents, agriculture, and the environment. And now joining us in the studio to discuss our statewide water issues are John Stolp, Special Policy Advisor to the Governor on Water. Welcome. We have Jim Lochhead, CEO and Manager of Denver Water. Welcome. Mark Pfeiffer, Director of Aurora Water. And we have Eric Kuhn, General Manager of the Colorado River District. We got a broad spectrum here. Thanks for being with us, guys. John, we'll start with you. You're the advisor to Governor Hickenlooper on water issues. What approach is the state taking to solve Colorado's projected water shortages?
As John Hickenlooper went around the state as a candidate and then as elected governor, most of the meetings he had with people involved water. Water is an important part of the economy in Colorado, and so that's why he put water as one of the higher priority policies for his administration. A number of things are going on around the state. We have the Colorado Water Conservation Board process, which has been in place for nearly 75 years. In addition to that, the Interbasin Compact Committee, which is a combination of people from the 9 different water basins that make up the Interbasin Compact Committee, plus some appointees from the governor, sit on a regular basis, and I'm the director for that group. Connected with that group is the Basin Roundtable Group, and this is a group of citizens and water providers and users in each of the 9 basins within Colorado that meet on a regular basis within their basins to assess their needs for their basins and how they're going to address those future needs.
So you have a lot of key people, a lot of key areas that are now together. I mean, you have groups formed now.
Absolutely, and I think these people represent the knowledge base of water issues in Colorado at the local level, so it's a grounds-up type of approach in which they're able to well assess what their needs are and then bring those together on a statewide basis through the Interbasin Compact Committee as well as the Conservation Board.
It's a tough job because you have a lot to balance. We're talking about urban needs, agricultural, recreational, wildlife, environmental. How do you juggle all of that?
Well, this process it facilitates people coming together that have different points of view on the importance of water in their particular area. I think we all agree that we have to have a strategy, a plan for the future in order to address the needs as we see population growth increasing. Where are we going to find the water resources to take care of that? At the same time, not damage our agriculture needs, because that's an important part of our economy. At the same time, provide for recreational, environmental, and municipal needs in the state. And by bringing these people together in their own communities and then on a statewide basis, I think we'll get to some solutions. Historically,
there's been a lot of squabbling over water rights in Colorado. You know, you have the western slope versus the Front Range versus the agricultural needs that we have in the eastern part of our state. But it sounds like major strides have been made in that area. Eric, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about that, how we're overcoming that history.
We got to realize within Colorado, nature gave us a situation where we have about 80% of our natural surface water falls west of the Continental Divide because the wet storms come in off the Pacific in the winter, and about 85% of our people are on the east slope. So there's no question that in order to have a viable Front Range and agricultural community, water needs to move from west of the Continental Divide where it's more plentiful to east of the Continental Divide where it's not. And what we've been doing is how do we do that in a way that makes sense for everybody? How do we build on that, and how do we do it in a way that Denver and Aurora and East Slope agriculture can have access to Colorado River water and at the same time protect what makes western Colorado good, which is agricultural economy, skiing, the things that people come to the mountains for. And that's our challenge, and we recently reached a proposed agreement with Denver Water and 35 parties on the West Slope, all the way from the Continental Divide to literally the border with Utah. And it involves communications and just sitting down and protecting our interests and understanding how to do something in a way that makes sense for all of us.
If you can get everyone on the same page and at least be empathetic to the other groups, then
understanding why, understanding the East Slope's interests and East Slope understanding the West Slope's interests is the key to an effective agreement.
Diplomacy, right?
Exactly.
Among the possible strategies for meeting our water shortage gap, conservation, obviously, developing new water projects and water supply, and agricultural transfers, which we're going to talk more about. We're going to go in depth about water conservation in our next segment, but what percentage of the current gap would you say can be solved by conservation? Jim, Mark, you guys might be able to answer that.
Well, that's a difficult question to put a percentage to, because since the time of the 2002 drought, municipal entities have done so much in the way of conservation that we've already achieved at least a 20% reduction. So that becomes the new baseline from which we operate.
You've reduced water use by 20%.
By 20%.
Just from conservation.
Just from conservation,
wow.
Right. So that's your new baseline. And from this point forward, though, we're looking at, xeriscaping, retrofits, landscaping ordinances, just public education, if you will, continual public education so they don't revert to past bad habits, to not only maintain that 20%, but we think we can achieve probably another 10% or so
wow.
on top of that as we move forward.
And you're as optimistic about that as well, Jim?
Sure. Denver Water is absolutely committed to continuing our conservation program. We have a nationally recognized Use Only What You Need advertising campaign that we're continuing to move forward on. We do rebate programs. We have programs with our customers to increase the efficiency of their use of water. We have a tiered rate structure that encourages budgeting and conservation. So we go after conservation on a multi-level approach.
When we talk about new projects and new supplies of water, water reservoirs are very important. But rather than trying to build one massive reservoir like the Two Forks project from decades ago, the strategy seems to be expand existing reservoirs and expand the use of reclaimed water.
There's a number of projects that are being proposed and are at different stages of development and permitting by the different water providers in the state. And within nearly every one of those projects, there's some storage component. Sometimes it's an enhancement of an existing reservoir. We're talking about some new technology of possibly storing water in depleted aquifers, recharging them. And so I think you'll see each of these identified projects and processes having a storage component, enhancing perhaps the storage they have, like the Chatfield Reservoir has a capacity to hold more water. You won't have to move any soil to enlarge it because it's got the capacity now. As we work through that and some of the other projects, there's storage components there that will help meet some of these needs.
Well, recreational water users would certainly enjoy that.
Well, there's always
spend a weekend at Chatfield and.
Well, there's always some trade-offs because there's some environmental amenities there now that will be inundated with the new water. Mm-hmm. But with the new water, we hope that there'll be an enlargement of those environmental and recreational values in that particular reservoir.
When you use the term reclaimed water, what does that mean exactly?
Well, these gentlemen can probably address that better, but some of the water that comes to the Front Range from the western slope has the ability to be used to extinction. In other words, it can be reused a number of times, retreated and then reused within the same jurisdiction. And so that's one way of assuring that we're being the most efficient and not necessarily wasting that water.
Squeeze every drop, right?
We don't use water directly into our system. Denver Water has a recycled treatment plant that we use for irrigation of golf courses and parks. And then also both Denver and Aurora have the ability to pick up water downstream treat it, and bring it back into our systems.
All right.
And Aurora recently completed its Prairie Waters project, which is probably, at this point in time, the quintessential reclaimed project in the United States.
Well, let's take a look at a couple of projects designed to increase our water supply, and one of these is Denver Water's Moffett Collection System project.
We should never waste this precious resource.
Providing reliable, high-quality water to more than 1 million customers in the Denver metro area involves both meeting the demands of today and preparing for the needs of tomorrow.
We know our region's going to continue to grow, and it's really important that we prepare for that growth now.
Denver Water is working to secure our future water supply with a comprehensive approach to long-term water planning.
Since the 1990s, Denver Water has looked at 3 ways to meet our demand: conservation, reuse, and supply. We have the largest reuse plant in the state.
Conservation is one of the core programs for Denver Water. It's really one of the 3 ways that we're making sure we have enough water in the future. We are currently on a 10-year plan to cut consumption in our service area by 22%.
And then we look at the supply, and that's gross reservoirs.
Gross reservoirs are a good example of how, by enlarging an existing reservoir, we can make better use of water that we have available in the wet years to improve the river environment and make water available in droughts and during system emergencies for our customers in the future.
The proposal to enlarge Gross Reservoir, known as the Moffett Collection System project, addresses that crucial element of future supply.
By the year 2030, Denver Water is projecting that we'll have a 34,000 acre-foot shortfall between our supply and our demand lines. In other words, we will not have enough water to meet all of our needs. Of the 34,000 acre-foot shortfall, the proposed project will meet 18,000 acre-feet of it.
But one thing we can't do with conservation is we can't move the water that we save to places that we really need it. And so the Moffett project is designed to increase water supply in an area that we can't move water to.
Most of Denver Water's supply now comes from the south side of the system.
Right now, 80% of our water and 90% of our water storage is above Strontius Springs Reservoir.
Adding about 130 feet to Gross Reservoir will restore balance and make the entire system less vulnerable. The Moffett project is more cost-effective than building a new reservoir.
The foundation's there, the piping's there, everything's already in place.
And Gross Reservoir was designed with this additional capacity in mind.
Denver Water has not made or constructed a large supply reservoir since Dillon Reservoir, and that was the early 1960s. That's the kind of foresight they had. It wasn't looking at just this year or next year or in 10 years. It was looking at 30 and 40 years out. That's what we're trying to do today. Let's not wait until we run out of water to start permitting and building the project.
Stewardship is also part of the plan. Denver Water is working not only to mitigate the impacts of the project, but to enhance the natural environment. This proposal involves only drawing extra water from our stream and river sources during wet and average years.
It's not year-round either. It's in May, June, and July, the runoff months. That's when the extra water is there that we can capture and make this a viable project. In dry years, you know, those drought years where flows are low and all the habitat stress, this project doesn't take any additional water.
Increasing the capacity at Gross Reservoir is a vital part of the conservation, reuse, supply strategy.
We know that with warming alone, that our supply will shrink and our need for water will increase.
It's Denver Water's commitment to consistently deliver the highest quality water for decades to come.
It's about providing water to you, the customer, each and every day.
Exciting projects in store. Jim, what does Denver Water face in expanding this and other reservoirs?
Denver Water's biggest challenge is uncertainty. We face uncertainty in the form of climate change, serving future growth, maintaining our system, maintaining financial stability and rates for our customers. And so expanding Gross Reservoir is one part of a broad portfolio of water supply options that we're looking at. But it's a really critical piece. We need to get through a federal permitting process. We need to work with the Western Slope, with Boulder County, with all the various interests that are impacted in the construction and operation of this reservoir. And then we need to move on to conservation and other supply alternatives to meet our needs in the future.
Eric, what challenges does the Colorado River District face from the West Slopes growth, protecting the environment, and then meeting the needs of the Front Range?
Well, the expansion of the Moffett system, which is really an enlargement of Gross Reservoir, which is on Boulder Creek. So although the construction is going to occur on Boulder Creek, the water to fill that expansion is going to come from the Fraser River system, which is in Grand County, just over the Continental Divide, just over Berthoud Pass. And that region has been dewatered now for many, many years. And the challenge on the West Slope,
dewatered?
There are 3 or 4 major diversions, beginning with the Grand River Ditch, the Colorado Big Thompson system, Denver's Moffett system, and Denver's Williams Fork system, all take water from streams in Grand County in that region and take it through the Continental Divide for use on the East Slope. So the challenge is how to take this additional water out of the system in a way that preserves the fishing, preserves the recreation, preserves the reason that people go to Grand County both in the summer and the winter. We think we've reached an accord that does that, that not only preserves it but restores some of the impacts from past actions in our proposed agreement.
So increasing the mountain storage can actually help the mountain ecosystem.
Exactly. By giving Denver additional storage means that Denver can use that in ways to restore flows in very dry years or dry periods of the winter when we have a problem. So flexibility for Denver with additional storage also means flexibility to meet needs in Grand County as well.
All right. Another solution to help supply the metro area with water is a first-of-its-kind program for Colorado. It's called the Prairie Waters Project. Let's take a look.
I'm Jackie Polisi, and I'm going to take you on a tour of Aurora's Prairie Waters Project, a water supply system that can deliver up to 3.3 billion gallons of water to the city each year. Prairie Waters combines state-of-the-art technology with an environmentally responsible approach, delivering Aurora residents the same high-quality water they've always received.
The bulk of Aurora's water comes from mountain runoff, surface water that's renewed each year through snowmelt. But relying heavily on that supply has its drawbacks. Weather patterns can be unpredictable, so it's difficult to know exactly how much water the city will get each year from snowmelt. In some years, as was the case in the 2002 drought, there just isn't enough water to serve Aurora's 310,000 residents who needed it.
Aurora Water wanted to come up with a solid drought protection plan. That's how the Prairie Waters Project evolved.
There was a lot of water in the South Platte that the city owned but wasn't using. Aurora had never developed the means to recapture the mountain water that eventually made its way back to the South Platte. Since new water supplies in Colorado are virtually unavailable, Aurora decided to better utilize its existing supply. They designed the Prairie Waters Project, a $650 million water supply system that recaptures water near the South Platte and Brighton and transports it through 34 miles of pipeline to a state-of-the-art purification facility near the Aurora Reservoir.
The Prairie Waters Project starts here. 17 wells pull the water through hundreds of feet of sand and gravel to clean out impurities. It's called riverbank filtration. It's been used in Europe for more than a century and has proven to be especially effective in removing pharmaceuticals. As some other water utilities struggle to find ways to remove these new contaminants from their supply, Aurora Water is ahead of the curve with some of the most advanced purification technology in the country.
Once the riverbank filtration process is complete, the next natural cleansing step is a process called aquifer recharge and recovery. The water is pumped into basins where it percolates through more sand and gravel over a longer period of time. This is a continuation of the riverbank filtration and removes even more contaminants. From here, a pipeline carries the water to 3 different pump stations. The pump stations lift the water almost 1,000 feet to the Peter D. Binney Purification Facility located near Aurora Reservoir. Once the water makes it to the purification facility, it undergoes some of the most advanced purification processes in the country. It is the final leg in the Prairie Waters Project. This 70-acre campus is designed to allow for easy expansion, yet it blends in with the natural surroundings.
The facility includes ultraviolet oxidation, the most powerful process available for water treatment. With 72 tubes each and weighing more than 4,000 pounds, these ultraviolet units complete the job that the riverbank filtration started. It's the largest UV water treatment facility in the nation.
High-intensity ultraviolet rays will destroy unwanted contaminants, including trace amounts of chemicals, viruses, and other compounds. Additional filtering takes place as water flows through a deep bed of granular coal and sand to remove any remaining particles. The final step is to push the water through activated carbon filters, just like larger versions of the one in water pitchers you can use at home. This last step before chlorination ensures the water has that great award-winning taste we all expect from Aurora's water. This facility can treat 50 million gallons of water each day. Together with the rest of Aurora Water's mountain supply, the Prairie Waters Project provides residents with the drought protection they need and the additional water supply to accommodate residents of the future.
Mark Pfeiffer, you're the director of Aurora Water, so tell us, what challenges do you face that are unique to Aurora?
Well, there are obviously common issues that all water providers face, but Aurora is a little unique in that we have a great expanse of undeveloped territory, if you will, that was annexed in the 1970s, 1980s, early 1990s. So Aurora has great potential for growth. And how that growth is going to occur and how we manage it in the context of providing the long-term reliable water supply is extremely important. In addition, we operate our water system in 3 different basins, and a lot of people don't realize that. We get a quarter of our water from the Arkansas Basin, a quarter from the Colorado Basin, and a half from the Platte Basin in which the city's located. So our infrastructure is very far-flung, if you will, requires huge investments and operational costs associated with that investment. So those will be real challenges as we move forward. And as Jim mentioned, we all share the question of cost and the uncertainty associated with climate change and the simple scarcity of supplies. And that's why we've gone to a heavy reliance on reclaimed water through our Prairie Waters Project.
Only so much you can control. Jim, while most of the Front Range relies on renewable surface water from snow melt, many communities in the southern part of the metro area rely on groundwater, which is a limited resource. So how can Denver and Aurora help these communities to the south?
You're right. The southern metro tier is relying on non-tributary, non-renewable groundwater to a large extent.
What communities in the southern part are we talking about? What cities?
The area basically south of 225
okay.
In northern Douglas County.
And include Parker and Castle Rock, Centennial.
Okay.
Castle Pines.
A lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people. And if there's a water crisis in that area, it becomes a water crisis for Denver and Aurora and the West Slope, because that area needs to expand and look for water supplies from different areas. So Denver Water and Aurora are partnering with the South Metro Water Authority to develop a project based on Aurora's Prairie Waters Project to bring reusable return flows back into the system and provide a sustainable supply for that northern Douglas County area.
And you make the distinction between potable and non-potable water, right, when you're talking about reclaimed water facilities? How does that come into play?
This water is water that is picked up downstream, that is return flow that we have the right to reuse, that is treated at a very sophisticated treatment plant that Aurora has built and would be delivered into those systems. So it is very high quality water.
And you could use it for what?
For anything.
These water issues are very complex, and in addition to providing water for our own state, not only do we have to help the cities south of the metro area, but we're also talking about helping other states provide. We have to provide water for them as well, correct?
We're a headwater state, and so we have to share about 2/3 of our water that falls on Colorado with downstate users.
Why? Why isn't it our water?
Well, these are compacts that were developed over the last century with downstream users. And it was in some ways to protect Colorado's resources of water, because other states like California were growing much faster than Colorado was. And so the visionaries at the time had the forethought to develop compacts in order to protect a certain amount of water for Colorado's future use. And so that's why we have compacts on each of our major tributaries.
They're all looking to us
Absolutely.
to save the day, right?
Yeah.
So, Mark, another strategy for meeting our water demands are agricultural transfers. Can you tell me what those are?
Agricultural transfers have taken a variety of forms, especially in recent times. One is simply what has historically been called a buy and dry situation, where an urban municipal entity will go and acquire the ditch shares, the decreed water rights of a farmer or rancher. And that's the way it was done for decades. Now we have more innovative approaches, such as leasing fallowing programs, where we rotate water off of lands, a certain percentage of a farmer's lands, and bring it back to the municipal use, for municipal use, or interruptible supply arrangements where we only move the water off agriculture in desperate times, like the 2002 drought, or when we're trying to recover from that drought and refill our reservoirs. So we're looking now for cooperative arrangements where basically agriculture can remain in business, remain economically viable, yet in times of real need, municipalities have something to fall back on by virtue of those transfers from the agricultural community.
Let's take a look at a water sale between Aurora and the town of Rocky Ford, which has become a model for agricultural transfers. Here is a land where life is written in water. That's the message that greets visitors to the small town of Rocky Ford in eastern Colorado. Water, the Arkansas River, has indeed been the ribbon of life of this community. But farmers faced the struggles of growing crops in an arid climate, plus new competition from global agriculture. At the same time, cities along the Front Range faced big population increases and drought. A solution for both the rural and urban communities came in the form of a water sale.
During the 1980s, Aurora purchased water here in the Arkansas Valley from the Colorado Canal System located in Ordway, Colorado, across the river from where we are now, and the Rocky Ford Ditch here in Rocky Ford, Colorado. The Arkansas Valley Range Project was initially created down here in Rocky Ford to revegetate the lands that were dried up after the removal of that water.
Any time that a soil, non-irrigated cropland, dry land, irrigated land, it's imperative that it be reseeded before the irrigation water is removed. The whole purpose is grass is just ultimate. It must be there, it must be provided for and managed so that we'll keep the soil covered.
The revegetated land is used for grazing and wildlife. The water sale also allowed for a continued farming program with much more efficient irrigation systems.
Since the water sale, we took advantage of Aurora's offer to have some continued farming, which provided the farmer with the infrastructure, that being drip tape and or overhead center pivot sprinklers, which are expensive to install but very efficient users of water and very good for growing crops with very little water. I have about 150 acres on the continued farming, and that works quite well. And then the balance of the acres we went ahead and revegetated. My partner and I came up with the idea of having an upland game bird club. That in mind, we planted somewhat different grass and species conducive to wildlife, especially to upland game birds, pheasant and quail. And that's been a great success.
The Arkansas Valley Range Project is very beneficial for the town of Rocky Ford and for the city of Aurora both. Having that direct connection with the two communities, I think, has really been helpful. We have 6 full-time staff members here at the Range Project. Just us being available to answer questions to both the sellers of the water rights, the community in general, anyone else that is interested, I think, helps quite a bit.
It's been important for Aurora to work with the Rocky Ford community and make sure the town continues to thrive. Because the town relied on taxes from farmers, Aurora made up for the lost revenue by making a payment in lieu of taxes, which benefited the town and the schools.
When the farmers in Rocky Ford that have water on the Rocky Ford Ditch sold their water to the city of Aurora, that lowers the assessed valuation of the property. And of course, school districts rely on the assessed valuation for their funding. So the city of Aurora wanted to recognize the fact that they had lowered our valuation and wanted to work with us to figure out a way to compensate us.
Aurora paid $1.5 million to the school district foundation over 5 years. The money from the water sale has helped in many ways, from historic preservation to a new community church.
I had a local church that wanted to expand, had outgrown their means and wanted to build a church, and they just came to me and asked if I knew of any location, and I said, sure. So we had a piece of property right on Highway 50 with good access and good exposure, so we gave them plenty of acres to build on and to expand into the future.
One farm family took the proceeds of the water sale and made a restaurant out of an old church.
It was built in 1910. Most people know about it that are from around here. It used to be a German Lutheran, and they spoke German and had services until the 70s. Well, purchased another historic old building. It used to be the sugar factory headquarters here in Rocky Ford for American Crystal Sugar. Bought it sort of as an expansion for the business, because this is pretty small, and this way we could have bigger events, private parties. Hopefully we've been branching into some weddings and reunions, and where we have our own sort of catering venue, I guess you'd call it. Just a chance to branch out and kind of fulfill a dream I always had. And we always wondered what if. If we hadn't done it, I'd have always wondered what if, what could have been. So I'm glad we were brave enough to step out and do it.
With investments from the water sale put back into the community, more efficient methods of irrigation for farming, increased crop yield, and the return of many acres of land to its native state, the legacy of the water in Rocky Ford continues on.
Aurora has done a very good job on the revegetation efforts here in the Arkansas Valley where the water has been removed. It's so much different than the typical buy and dry that you see with other water rights purchases. Our continued farming efforts has allowed some of that land to stay in production. Because of the efficient irrigation systems that we've helped the farmers install, they've been able to grow, get better yields off of their crops.
The school district did benefit from this water transfer in the fact that we received this funding. We've had declining enrollment, and of course to have extra funding is a huge benefit and use that way. The city of Aurora very much tried to be a good citizen in this case and not just grab the water and run.
All in all, Aurora's been a very good partner down here. They've invested here, they have an office here, they have a full-time staff here taking care of their investment in the land. And I believe that they've shown that they have a great sense of responsibility for staying here and seeing that this community continues to thrive.
So, Mark, as we've seen, obviously the important thing is not to just buy up water rights in an agricultural area and leave the community devastated. It needs to be a win-win arrangement.
Right.
In that same vein, Jim, Denver's actually helping West Slope entities pay for their water facilities and environmental restoration in return for using river basin storage. Give and take.
It's important to recognize that what's good for urban Denver is good for the Western Slope. What's good for the Western Slope is good for urban Denver, and that applies to the agricultural community as well. Denver Water has taken the approach of reaching out, forming partnerships, and developing our water supplies in a responsible way that's responsible to the environment, to local communities, and to the systems that we impact with our operations.
Teamwork.
Yep.
As we wrap up this segment, I'll go to each of you for final thoughts on this subject. John, let's start with you.
It's important in water policy in Colorado we look at the state as a whole. And I think what we've been discussing today points out that we can have impacts and move water and yet not devastate communities. It's important to agriculture to be viable. At the same time, agriculture is very important to the economy of the state. Our recreational industry is very important to the state. Our environmental aspects that make Colorado such a great place to be is largely water-driven. So it's important to have a statewide policy that impacts everybody in an equal way.
And Jim, your perspective from Denver Water.
Denver Water System serves 1.3 million people in the Denver metro area, and it's an area that we didn't have water and was not sustainable when the first white settlers arrived here. So our system sustains this city. And but in order to do so, we need to look more broadly and look at the impacts that we create and the place that we have in Colorado in helping to shape a positive future for this state, and we're committed to do that.
Mark, a lot of new growth potential in Aurora, so how would you kind of sum up your thoughts on this subject?
I think it's important for the water providers and the state and the politicians to show leadership in developing the type of program that John was referring to, a statewide program that meets the needs of all the values we've identified, be they recreation, environment, municipal, industrial, commercial, because they all play a vital role in our economy. And that means making some difficult decisions, and also, though, letting people know that this will come at a fairly high cost. Storage, reuse, reclaiming water is not inexpensive, but it's the right thing to do, and I think we'll get there.
Eric, Colorado River District is on board with all of these sentiments?
We're on board with these sentiments. We look to the Colorado River. It serves 2 countries, 7 states, 30 million people.
Wow.
Its headwaters are here in Colorado, up at Grand Lake. It's one of the nation's great river treasures, and our job is to protect it and keep it there for our uses and future generations' use, both in the river and as a water supply for our human and agricultural needs.
Well, it's raining outside as we speak, as we tape this, so that's a good thing.
You planned that well.
You did plan that very well. Thank you. Thank you very much to our guests, John Stolp, Jim Lochhead, Mark Pfeiffer, and Eric Kuhn. When we come back, we're going to take an in-depth look at conservation and how you can make a big difference. But first, let's take a look at what the City of Thornton is doing to conserve water.
Our primary job here is to make sure that the citizens of Thornton and all of our water customers have enough water to meet their daily needs, and have enough water in a drought, have enough water into the future, even as Thornton continues to grow. And so we look at the water conservation campaign as a really important component of that water supply planning initiative. We live in a semi-arid climate, so we do not have a lot of water to work with when it comes to supplying our citizens with water. And so what we're trying to do with our campaign is to really make sure that our citizens are consciously thinking about the way that they're using water, that they're thinking about how the most efficient way to use it is possible, because then we're making sure that they're really only using what they need.
The purpose of the campaign is to create a partnership with the community, not just provide information. So we're working with Worldway Social Marketing to help us get this message out, and they have a great creative team that brought some household fixtures to life to promote our message.
Well, the purpose of the campaign is to get people to see things differently and to do things differently. We don't want them to just think about saving water, but to actually save water and feel good about it. And that's where the characters come in.
Man, this is the 7th time my owner has turned me on this week. Apparently, he doesn't know the 2-day tip. Rub it in, why don't ya?
By running the sprinklers only 2 days a week, you're using less water and making your lawn healthier. Find more tips at ThorntonWater.com.
The campaign has been a lot of fun, and it's a change of pace from what we do. We're a very science, data-oriented business. I really appreciate the humor aspect of it, because it is fun. It's serious business for sure, but every time I see it out on the street, whether it's on a trash truck or on a bus shelter sign, I can't help but chuckle. It's really engaging for kids and adults alike. It's been fun to think about how our customers perceive what we do, how our customers perceive their own behavior and how they use water, and what's the best way to get this message out to them.
Our characters are both, I think, magical and motivational. They kind of capture our imagination. They make me think, what if my washing machine and my dryer were really talking about the way that I waste water? What if my sprinklers were unhappy that I don't come to visit them? I think it's just a different way of connecting with people and getting them excited about what Thornton Water's trying to achieve.
I saved 10 gallons of water today.
Well, I'll save 20 gallons.
Yeah, but I'm still better looking.
Replace your old water wasting appliance with a new water-saving one and get a rebate up to $125. Find more tips at ThorntonWater.com.
The unique thing about this campaign is it raises awareness, but in addition, it asks for a commitment from our citizens. So we're forming that partnership, and we're asking residents to take the pledge to save 10 gallons a day, and we recognize those residents as water saving champions.
The education component has been tremendously effective. The outreach component has been effective. It's important to have that kind of conservation ethic, and that's really one of the things that we're trying to instill in our community.
You know, I think what's special is that Thornton Water has really taken the time to understand what its residents need to save water. So the campaign doesn't just connect them with messages, but connects them with tools and rebates and other resources on the web and offline. And it's a real testament that city leaders not only care about water conservation, but they care about the residents that they're asking to help out.
Water resources are limited and very precious. That's why Thornton believes that conservation is so important and should be part of our everyday life. Our programs are developed to make water conservation really easy for our customers. When our residents participate in all these great programs we have, overall it's about a $500 value to the residents, and they really work. In fact, I just got an email the other day from one of our customers who participated in the programs, and he's very passionate about water conservation, and his family of 4 has saved 6,000 gallons consistently each month. In 2010, we did a huge water saving giveaway. Thornton partnered with Ewing, Home Depot, and Center for Resource Conservation. We were able to give away 56 smart irrigation clocks, 50 rain sensors, and about 500 dual flush WaterSense 1.28 gallon flush toilets. People loved the program, and one of the greatest things about it was we got those water saving products out into the community where neighbors can talk about this technology and how great it is, how it saves water, and how it works better.
So it's a great way to have a positive message out there and a positive influence on the community and helping to secure our water supply for the future.
Our citizens have been great participants and great partners in it, and so we really think that it's going a long way to kind of change people's behavior and have them think about the way that they're using water on a daily basis.
You know, I think the League of Water Savers are a really great group of heroes and champions, but the real heroes in this campaign are the residents of Thornton, our water-saving champions, our businesses who are actually taking those steps and doing what they can to save water every day. They're our true heroes.
This is really a regional issue. It's a statewide issue. Thornton just happens to be at kind of the forefront of it, and so I see a lot of the other communities, a lot of the growing communities, looking to us to see what we're doing and finding ways to partner with them so that we can really make this a region-wide effort and a region-wide commitment to using our water wisely.
And now joining me in the studio are Melissa Elliott, Manager of Conservation for Denver Water, and Mark Casalia, Water Conservation Supervisor for Aurora Water. Thanks, you guys, for being with us. May seem obvious, but what role does water conservation play in an arid state like Colorado? We'll start with you, Melissa.
Well, of course, it's the right thing to do, and we should always value our water and conserve it and use it wisely, but probably even more importantly, it is a way to get additional water supplies for our customers. In addition to new water supply development and recycled water, it's a way that our customers can participate in ensuring we have future supplies of water.
Same question for Mark.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to agree with Melissa. I mean, we do believe there's an ethic kind of out here. We only receive about 14 inches of precip yearly. And when we look at that, we just have to realize that we live in an arid area and we should be responsible for what we're doing. We do, as the state looks at, there is going to be a gap between the supply and the demand in the future. We want to make sure that we can meet that.
Melissa, what is your goal and direction in conservation?
Well, we've been doing conservation for more than 30 years at Denver Water, but starting in 2007, we launched a 10-year campaign to reduce our water use by 22%. So our customers are really on board with that. We've already achieved about 20% of that, and we have a variety of programs to help them do that.
How about for Aurora?
For Aurora, it's two-pronged. I mean, really, we believe that we need to create an educated community that knows where their water comes from, how they're using it, how they can use it efficiently. The second part of it is we both realize that we have the potential to end up in a drought situation or even a catastrophic kind of failure in our water supply. We need our customers to be able to react to those situations.
How do you work with them?
Sure. So how do we work with them? There's lots of ways. We have a number of programs. Melissa's group as well has a number of programs. We work through, I believe we kind of both really look at education over enforcement. We're really about helping the community realize where they're using water, how they're using water. We do that through indoor audits. Aurora offers about 30 classes per year to kind of help customers learn about this stuff. And then even our water monitors and your water monitors as well are really trained to kind of help people understand where those water's going, not really to kind of bring down that hammer.
Right. So how does Denver Water get out there and reach the citizens?
We have a three-pronged approach, and the first thing is we want to look at behavior change. A lot of water use changes that we're seeing are people just deciding, I don't need to quite put so much water on my lawn, or I'm going to make sure I shut the tap off while I'm shaving or brushing my teeth. And it's making people aware of that. And so we have a very large public outreach campaign called Use Only What You Need, which kind of gets out there, advertises, engages with our customers in that. The second approach we have is more of an active conservation measure where we're getting people to actually change out fixtures, whether it's toilets or washing machines or faucet aerators, to use less. And then the third piece that we do is really combining those two things and making sure that we're working with our government so that they can lead our conservation efforts, and we're working with them to reduce their irrigation usage.
So, Mark, are there differences in the ways that Aurora and Denver approach conservation?
Sure, I think there are. I mean, we have a lot of similar programs. We're offering rebates and things like that that really can kind of assist customers in doing that. But when it comes down to it, we have a little bit difference in the kind of geographic and the diversity of our cities. Aurora is ever expanding. So we're really working, one thing that we do is work with planning and code to kind of just make sure that we are developing responsibly, that we have limits on the amount of turf that people can have in their front yards and backyards, and really be responsible on the front end rather than kind of retrofit afterwards.
What percentage of our residential water goes to lawn watering?
I think you see this as well. I mean, we are below the 50% now, but annually we see approximately 42% kind of go out to landscaping.
42%?
Correct.
So that's watering your bluegrass, Kentucky bluegrass mostly.
Yep, gardens.
Similar for Denver?
Very similar statistics for us.
So xeriscaping is, we hear a lot about it, but it makes a difference, right?
It makes a substantial difference, yes. I mean, xeriscape or bluegrass, as you probably see, 28 inches of precip per year, or of irrigation that we need to put down to make the bluegrass grow. Xeriscape can survive from anywhere between 5 and around 12 to 15 inches. So there is at least 50% reduction by installing that xeriscape.
So, Melissa, should we be adding more xeriscaping to our yards?
Well, I think when customers are looking at what they want to do in the future with their yards and they're concerned perhaps about their water bills, this is one way that they can make a difference. And you can do it incrementally and work with landscape companies to do this as well, or do it yourself. We've seen a lot of change over the last 30 years since we actually coined the term xeriscape in the 1980s.
Denver Water customers can track their water usage now. It's a pretty handy system. It appears right on their water bill, correct? And they can access the information online if they want to get to it?
That's right. So take a look. Make sure you're taking a look at your bill if you're a Denver Water customer, but it actually allows our customers to set a goal for themselves and say, hey, last year and this month I used this much. I'm going to go 10% less this year.
All right. Conservation, a long-term strategy or a short-term strategy, Mark?
I think it's really both. But when we look at it, I mean, our goal for our conservation division, again, is to kind of build that community of awareness, where they know where their waters come from. They know how much water and snow is in the mountains. They know how they can react effectively to those drought situations. So that's kind of the long term. And then in the short term, we're really kind of changing what people think about low-flow toilets, about xeriscape, and we're incentivizing them to kind of make those changes.
It's definitely not going away anytime soon.
No.
We have a 10-year goal, but after that we'll still be conserving.
The drought of 2002 was such a wake-up call. I think it's ingrained in all of us now when we brush our teeth or we're, planting flowers or watering. We've seen the potential of, what can go wrong, and so it was beneficial in many ways that we had that drought because it changed a lot of bad habits.
It certainly did. We saw a significant behavior change after that.
Thank you very much for joining us, Melissa Elliott and Mark Casaglia. Water conservation is, of course, critical, and so is water quality. World Water Monitoring Day is an international education and outreach program that engages citizens to conduct basic monitoring of their local water bodies. Let's take a look.
Our planet is our responsibility, and water is one of its most precious resources. If we do not help to protect it, who will? The demands for clean water are many, yet there is no more water on the planet than there was when dinosaurs roamed the earth. As water passes through the countryside and each community on its way to the oceans, it picks up many chemicals. You see, water is a solvent and a carrier of everything it touches. Most communities test and trace their water, but there are too many areas to test and not enough people to collect all data necessary to form a larger picture of the condition of our most precious resource. Sampling and other planned events educate people of all ages in many nations about the value of clean water and the role of water quality monitoring. Participants get the opportunity to use a test kit to take water quality samples and enter their results in an international database. It is an opportunity for you to volunteer to become a water monitor, to become a coordinator to supervise monitoring activities, and for utility, industry, and corporate entities to spread the clean water message in your communications and newsletters. It is also an opportunity to sponsor activities in your community. Here's what you'll test for: dissolved oxygen, pH or acidity, clarity and temperature. Low levels of oxygen can weaken or kill fish. Natural waters with favorable acidity support aquatic life better. Clarity can impact photosynthesis, respiration, and reproduction of aquatic life. Waters that are too hot or too cold can have severe effects on fish and other aquatic life. After you collect and input your data, you will report your results into the website to be published, where it becomes official results in an international database. Along with testing, this is an opportunity for education in the community, especially with younger participants. Those hosting these events should organize forums to explain how water quality is maintained in the community, as well as opportunities to question water quality officials and get relevant answers in the local community. Hosts can find and build models to demonstrate the principles of water dynamics in the community that are easy to understand. It is an opportunity to show participants the more technical side of water quality testing. Hosts can arrange to demonstrate the use of more advanced equipment used to monitor water quality and the laboratory environments in which they are used. These demonstrations can also show participants what is in the water that is useful and what is a concern. Those involved in organizing can obtain World Water Monitoring Day posters, save the date reminder postcards, information leaflets, instruction booklets, and model press releases and brochures that can be customized. Based on supplies and sponsorship, your organization can purchase test kits or apply to receive free test kits. You will find many of these materials contained on this DVD to help you get started. By performing water quality monitoring exercises, communities and individuals are made aware of the condition of their local water bodies and are encouraged to take action to rectify problems. The educational campaign encourages participants to get involved in their communities to provide better site management and provide advice on other water pollution control initiatives that could be taken. An activity unlike any other in the water calendar, World Water Monitoring Day goes further to encourage interest, and it raises awareness by promoting meaningful and positive action. People everywhere can help protect and preserve their local freshwater bodies, and the base of information available in your area will continually be expanded. Now is the time to get involved. This is a practical and fun way for industry and communities to work together for the improvement of this most precious resource.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Metro Voices. As Colorado's population will nearly double by the year 2050 and changing weather patterns could mean drought years ahead, the state is taking a proactive, multi-pronged approach to ensuring adequate water supply for the future. These approaches, as we've seen, include conservation, agricultural water transfers, and developing new water projects and supply. We hope you'll help by continuing to conserve water. I'm Wendy Brockman. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.